Okay, so this shelf over here is mostly for my orchids that are in quarantine. Either there's something about them that I'm not liking, or most of the time it is really just because they're newer to the group, to the family, and I want them to kind of stay separated for a little bit and to see how they're doing. So I have my recently purchased bulbophyllums here, and I've also divided them. So in the in the spring, I will definitely be sending these guys off to be shared with my friends or whatnot. We'll see what happens. I actually have 2 seed pods from 2 of my bulbophyllums. So this one is the, what is it? I believe this one is the bulbophyllum lilac. Oh, snap. I mean, literally snap. Lilacinum. Wow. Okay, I'll make a new tag for it. And it has a seed pod right here. There it is. There's a seed pod. And this thing gets like super stinky at the end. Like, they're supposed to smell like lilacs, obviously, but when they're about to die, like when they're brown like this, they stink. They stink really bad. So I left it on to suffer the stinkiness, and I got a little seed pod, so I'm excited about that, although I don't really know what to do with it. And this is my bulbophyllum cocoianum, and it has another seed pod right there. So I have divisions of these. These are all blooming size from the mama plants back there, and that is her seed pod right here. So in the future, or in the spring, I think I'll start sending these guys off to my friends or whatever, and we'll see what happens. Or I'll make them really big and just wait for them to grow really big. So, okay, this is one of my, my rescue cymbidiums. This one had a flower spike, and guess what I did? I killed it. So it was just, it rotted away. Obviously, this is definitely my fault. I wasn't watching it, and the entire spike rotted away because it's really cold, and I water, and sometimes the water doesn't dry off, and it just stays in there. I'm really upset about it, but what are you gonna do? Move on, right? Moving upwards, we have some more rescues. I didn't have the heart to like throw them away, and I think they can definitely be saved, so we'll see what happens. These are my epiphylums. So I've had them for probably 6 months now. They were like that tall of a cutting, and now they're huge. They're growing everywhere. It's really great. And here is my Dendrobium. So I got this from Gold Country, and there were about 4 growths, and now you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 growths, 7 new growths. And what I did was I just made a root ball, and they did really well. So the root ball actually helps the roots stay moist, and you can see that these roots have actually started, these roots weren't here before, but they've actually started growing into the root ball. So they did this on their own, and they're actually wrapping themselves around the root ball. Isn't that fantastic? So these roots are starting to go into the root ball as well. And my mom thought that I just dropped this, but I didn't. There's actually another growth right here. It's just sitting like this, so it's pretty awesome. I water these every day, by the way, and this is one of my favorite phals. And rest in peace, phal. It got really bad rot, and it was too late for me to save it. I should have watched it a little bit more, but I didn't. This, another one of my, actually this is not a zygo, this is a zygonesia. How pretty is that? It's gorgeous. I love it. I actually think that this is the third spike in a few months. So first it blooms from first spike, then a second spike, and then a third spike. And it's just really beautiful. So I have my my Catasetum over here that Brittany gave to me, and I've actually started to not water it anymore. So but you can see that it doesn't want to go into dormancy. But I think because I've stopped watering it, it's starting to get there. But for a long time, it wasn't going into dormancy. It was actually growing more pseudobulbs. And this pseudobulb here was actually growing a lot bigger than the old one, of course, as expected. And it kept growing, and then there was another bulb here that it was starting to grow, even though I was trying to get it to go into dormancy. But we'll see. So this one is something I got from, I'm sorry, I have to move. Phaeocalanthe Kryptonite Chariots of Fire. I apologized if I said any of that wrong. It had a stupid caterpillar. Oh god, I really hate those. And it's been suffering for a while because of the caterpillar, and because I'm not exactly sure how to take care of this, and there just wasn't that much information online about these guys. This is a hybrid, and last year I purchased it in November, and of course it was in bloom. It was suffering from, of course, the cold and from moving over to California, and also from the cold and everything, and suffering with me as well because I wasn't sure how to take care of it. And this year what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a dry period. So what I've noticed last year for this guy is that this bulb, actually after it's finished blooming, it dropped off its leaves, just like the Catasetums. So this year what I'm going to do is I'm going to force it into dormancy. So these leaves, I expect them to fall off throughout the January period, which is good because these leaves are so ugly from the stupid caterpillar. So let's see, let me put that back. This is my first Denphao. I mounted it on this piece of wood, but I don't know. This was when I didn't know that much about Denphaos or anything like that. So this was a while back, and it has buds for me. There was one time when it started blooming, and then I broke it off. Actually, no, it was, I believe, an animal broke it off. The flower spike, which was really sad. But okay, so moving up, I think I'll just go through these. I don't know if I've gone through these over here already, but the lighting's pretty bad, so I won't talk too much about it. But these are all my bulbos and all my newer orchids that are here, and my epis and whatnot. So I did a video on this one already. So let's move on to my hanging orchid, or my hanging plant. So, excuse me. This one is a Swiss cheese vine, and it wasn't doing so well. So I basically it was growing really long, and I basically cut off everything and just had small cuttings and rooted it back in here. This one is a Dendrobium that I did not want to go into dormancy because it was suffering quite a bit, and I did not want it to bloom at all. So I've been watering it constantly. It only has very small and shriveled pseudobulbs or canes and one keiki, so that was it. And I've been watering it constantly to force it not to go into dormancy. And I have my Nepenthes right here. This is my only carnivorous plant. It is putting out another little pitcher right here, and I've collected rainwater, whatever rain I could get. It's California. So I water those about once a week, and luckily it doesn't get that dry, so it's a good thing. I have my Shalop Toki in here, which has finished blooming here already, and this one is like the 5th spike it's put out, which is really sad because the plant is like, hey, I'm too cold and I want to, you know, take a nap or something, but it keeps on putting out more spikes. I have some of my other orchids that have finished blooming here, so these are the ones that have finished blooming. There's nothing going on with those. And I have my very trusty spider orchid. And I want to bring it down here to show you guys because I think like it definitely deserves some attention. So this is actually a Noid, or no ID. I actually made a little tag here with the flowers here, but I don't have a name for it. And this one is actually the 3rd flower spike or 4th flower spike this year. It's pretty ridiculous. So this orchid has kept on blooming since the beginning of the year. And I'm gonna show you guys, this is my hand and this is the flower. So I actually measured this once for Jim on the Facebook group. From the tip to here is about 11 inches. Isn't that crazy? And this is a prolific bloomer, so it gets really high up here. And this bloom is not as long as the one at the bottom, but it's beautiful and it's slightly scented and it smells wonderful. So it has some new growth right here as well. And I'm gonna turn around to show you guys that it's put out yet another flower spike. So I don't know what I'm doing right with this plant. Maybe it's just likes my environment. And I hang it up high so it's actually warmer up there than the plants that are sitting down below. But it's putting out another flower spike, and I think this might be the 5th or the 6th spike. I'm not really sure. So over here I have some sad looking orchids. So I have my bulbophyllum here. It's actually not sad. It's just sitting there because I found like a little bit of evidence of a snail in there, and that's why it's sitting over there. And these guys are just dying. Let's face it, they're just not doing that well. And it is partly my fault because I cannot afford to have my heater on all the time to keep it at a comfortable temperature for my phals, and my phals are not doing that well. Most of the cold damage on my orchids are on my phals. My other orchids don't get cold damage that much. I don't see any evidence of it so far, but I see it on most of my phals. They do get that cold damage, which really sucks, and it makes me not want to buy any more phals. So I think I'm just not going to buy any more phals. That's pretty much it. But some of them are spiking. So there's a spike right there. Look. And some of my other ones are spiking as well. This one is spiking. But they're just not happy. And I think at this point, I'm just gonna say, oh well, if they don't survive, then they don't survive, because they're just not suited for what I can offer them. And I really just cannot spend a fortune with heating and cooling and all that other stuff. So there's nothing that I really want to do for them right now. And of course, here are my African violets, which are not doing that great either, and it's because I've neglected them. I kind of just wanted them to die off, but I feel bad, so I still water them, and this one has like one lonely bud. Isn't that sad? So they're just sitting there. I gotta have a place to move them to, but right now I'm just not even sure what I want to do with them. So we'll see what happens. There's not much going on with my phals. I think quite a few of them are in spike, but I don't want to have to like go through every single one of them, so I'll just talk about them once they improve. So this one is suffering from a combination of things actually. So from a caterpillar, and then from my dad dropping some wood sealer on it. So these are actually spots from the wood sealer, and that's from the caterpillar. And of course then from some rot down here. I don't know if it's gonna survive, but oh well, right? And so this one, my Dendrobium kingianum, actually, my mom's friend gave this to me, and it had absolutely no roots. She just cut it off like this. So I couldn't root it. I just stuck it back in, I just stuck it into the bark. That's why it's all leaning over here, because they don't have any roots to hang to attach themselves to any of the media. I have some of my babies here that are in the compost. They're not doing much, but they're actually growing. They've grown quite a bit since I've gotten them in February. So they used to be like that small, and now they're bigger. So maybe hopefully in like a year and a half or 2 years they'll bloom.